What makes a person of interest?
Hey guys, this is Coach Micheal Burt, Super Coach, America's Coach, and I'm here at my lodge today and interviewing a good friend and probably one of the smartest guys I know. You know, it's interesting. When I first met Rob Luna, I was hearing about Rob Luna from Brian and Jana Truman, who are my clients in Nashville, and they were telling me about this guy Rob Luna, and everybody kept saying he's a real smart guy. You know, he's great with the finance and all this. And then I've kind of get to know him personally here, and I've been very, very impressed with number one, his integrity. I think he's a very high integrity person, and I always look for that. But number two, I think he's just an incredibly smart guy as it relates to finance, economics, what business owners need to be doing. So I asked him would he speak at Monster Nation in September on the 8th and 9th here in Nashville, Tennessee, and he accepted. So Rob, thank you for joining me today as we promote this tour. I've told people you never sold anything till you sell tickets to a conference, man. That and selling a book, because it's like so many conferences are out there.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to really separate this conference. It's really for entrepreneurs, small business owners, people in our coaching programs, people that just want to grow and expand. Mm-hmm. So let's get into a little bit about your background and a little bit of history of Rob Luna, because you're going to be one of our main speakers at the conference there in Nashville on the 9th. And if you're available, going to come up to the lodge on Thursday and meet and greet people. The people that get the top tickets, the $29.97 tickets, get a special day at the lodge here. Those are kind of your top 50 ticket holders. They get a private concert that night with Diamond Rio, country music band. And then we're going to go to Nashville to the Bell Tower and do Friday. And we're going to open that part up to the general admission tickets and the second level of tickets. And you're going to be here with us through that with a lot of talented people. So tell us a little bit about your background and your personal story.
Yeah, exciting. Well, first of all, I'm gonna have to send a check over to Brian and Janet Truman's because for saying such nice things about me. So I appreciate that, and I think what you hit on, and I'm most proud of, and very thankful that you brought it up, was the integrity. And that's one thing I think we're all in the reputation business, and from day one, my motto was no shortcuts, full transparency. Being in a business where you can go to the SEC's website and any complaint whatsoever, founded, unfounded, is documented there for everyone to see. To be licensed and registered for 25 years without one complaint during the technology meltdown, September 11th, 2008, 2009. Super proud of that. And it really just comes down to what you said: integrity, under promising, over delivering, doing what you say you're going to do. Just simple things that, like you and I know, Coach, it's easy to do, but in practice, there's just a lot of people who have a hard time doing what they say they're going to do. So, but yeah, just a little bit about me is, I don't want to spend too much time. I grew up just like, a lot of people out there, in inner city Los Angeles with a lot of challenges, product of a, single mother who was hooked on drugs. And I don't want to spend a lot of time, but it wasn't the ideal childhood. It's the exact opposite of what I'm trying to give my own daughter today. But I used all that adversity as motivation to see what I didn't want to be in life, what I didn't want to do in life. And the great part about living in the country that we live in, it doesn't matter where you came from, what you do, we all have equal opportunity for success. And I'm probably a poster child, along with millions of other people, of just taking advantage of that opportunity to, for myself personally, it was the traditional path. I went to college. I got my first job as a stockbroker trainee at 19 with Waterhouse, my second year into Arizona State University. And I just realized, early on, Coach, that this was my opportunity. And I was going to go into it head down. I was going to learn all I needed to learn, and I was going to be the best that I can be in that industry. And that's just really what I did. I was a product of that, to where, I'm an alumnus of 4 different schools: Wharton, UCLA, National University of Singapore, Arizona State, different designations. I've been in the media for about 12 years now. I've worked with Fox Business, CNBC, Bloomberg. I manage money for some of the wealthiest families out there, a lot of entrepreneurs who sold and exited their businesses, a lot of professional athletes. And so started the traditional route, financial analyst. I built my own wealth management firm, which makes me, I think, uniquely qualified to talk about personal finance, because that's what my education and experience has been, but also how do you build, scale, sell a business. So built my own wealth management firm when I was 27 out of my bedroom, not in an 8,000 square foot place like you're in right now, much smaller bedroom. But the great thing is I built that to almost $1 billion, and I was able to sell that firm to a publicly traded company just a few years ago. I'm phasing out of that now. And so the great thing about that is I started with no money, built it, sold it to a publicly traded firm. That was, for me, affirmation, confirmation that I kind of knew what I was doing. Because when you're selling to a publicly traded company, for anyone who's ever been there, they don't send in their brother Chester to check your books. They send in the big accounting firms to make sure everything was legit, above board, and to be able to go through that process successfully after having guided other entrepreneurs over 8-10 years to do that and then exit. There's nothing like doing it yourself. And I think I learned so much from that experience to really validate what we did. And, now I'm just excited in what I'm doing, and why I'm part of this conference with you is giving back to entrepreneurs. Like, I don't want to say it's truly altruistic. I get paid to do what I do. But look, my clientele, my minimum account level to work with my firm has been 25 million investable for the last 7 years, right? So when I'm able to work with people for literally hundreds of dollars now, I do feel like I'm bringing some great talent, my team and myself, along to just about anybody to help and educate them of how do you set up your own personal finances in a way you're not dependent on a financial advisor, and how do you build a real business for scale to exit that's an asset and not just buy yourself a job, which is what really a lot of entrepreneurs do.
Well, I'm so glad. I'm so glad you said that, because you hit so many things. I started this business 14, 15 years ago as a high school basketball coach, by the way.
Yeah.
And Rob, I didn't know the difference. This is crazy, because if you would have came to me when I was 25 years old and said, man, you could become a multimillionaire, blah, 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 I would have said to you, why? I'm happy. I'm doing what I love doing. I make 50,000 a year.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have this, but it really set me up to need a guy like you, because from 20 to 30, nobody coached me on money.
Yeah.
Nobody coached me on personal finance. No. So I literally didn't know the difference between an asset and a liability at 31 years old when I started this business.
Yeah.
I knew how to get people excited. I knew how to coach, Rob. I knew how to I had a very specific skill set, but man, I was clueless on a lot of things, that you teach and talk about, even personal finance. And then I got to the point where I would consider myself a high income earner, but underinvested. And this is what you and I talk about a lot, which I think we're going to have a lot of those people at the conference. It's like they know how to make money, but then they don't know who to trust when it comes to do something with the money.
Sure.
And there's so much confusion. Worst thing you could do is tell people that you got money, but you don't know what to do with it.
Right. There's a lot of people who can help you out with that problem. The problem is you might have a much greater problem by the time they're done helping you.
So let's talk about what you do today. All right. So you got into TV. A lot of people know you from being on Fox Business, and you're on there every single week. And I watch your clips and I watch your sessions. And what would you consider yourself as today? Are you consulting people? Are you like tell me specifically so the people out there would know?
Yeah. So I'm phasing out of my private wealth management firm. So I'm kind of putting that phase of my career behind. It's been a great run. The challenge with private wealth management, it's very demanding on your time. It's not scalable. And, one of the things that I realized over this 3-year kind of earn-out process is that I really have seen a huge problem of exactly what you're talking about, of even people that have gone to college. The financial illiteracy out there is so high that there's really a demand for what I'm doing. The challenge I'm finding, Coach, is that what I teach is graduate level type of stuff. And that's not what the Instagram society necessarily loves today, but it's what people need to know. So trying to, great thing about being on TV is I think I'm a decent communicator, but I'm still really working on how do I break it down, gamify it, make it more easier, because this is information people need to know and you can't learn it in a few seconds. So a few things I've transitioned to. I started the Wealth Academy, which is my definition of, what I was part of at Wharton for several years until they ended it, unfortunately, was a lifelong learning initiative to where, look, the economy changes all the time. Opportunities, risks change all the time. I wanted to create something where I could talk to people live every week on a Zoom to let them know in business what you should be doing. We were talking about 7 months ago, preparing for a recession. How do you prepare your business for that? How do you prepare your personal balance sheet for that? Weekly, what opportunities are there in the stock market, real estate market? So I do that. The Wealth Academy, it's a subscription-based service. Just about anybody could afford to get into that. Through the Academy, we teach personal finance and entrepreneurism. I realize there's some people that they just need a little bit of extra help. I launched Lunaventure Partners. I brought in 2 people, CPAs, MBAs from Deloitte to help me run that, who have big accounting experience, have worked with Fortune 500 companies, to help entrepreneurs who maybe been in business for a little bit of time, but they need that next level of help with their financials, maybe preparing pitch decks if they're trying to raise capital. So that's a business I'm involved with. And then come January, we're going to be launching Real Talk Capital. So to your point, we're going to try to disrupt that wealth management model to where it's going to be a flat subscription fee, no matter how much money you have, between $500 to $3,500 a year, where you get CFP access, financial plan, asset management, no conflicts, to where now we're going to be able to deliver a solution to everybody. And I'll be building a team around that. I'm not going to be the guy who's managing money per se, but we're going to be able to create a system to where if you get out of college, you should have a financial plan. You might not have assets, but for $500 now, you could have a financial plan, know what to do, prevent from making the big mistakes, how to pay off your college debt, what to pay off, not to pay off. So I'm super excited about that. And that's all come from the Academy of just getting down on the ground level with people with real world problems of what they're dealing with. But I'm different from a Dave Ramsey or Susan Norman, where I'm going to tell you to live off of cat food and buy your $40,000 trailer, because I believe most people underestimate their own ability to be multimillionaires. They get caught in that rut of what everyone tells them they can be, and that creates a ceiling. I want people who are aspirational, whatever their definition of success. Like Jim Sinegal, who's the outgoing CEO, I've talked about him of Costco. Billionaire, drives a F-250 pickup, lives out on a ranch. Cool. Whether you want that, Ferrari, I don't care, but don't sell yourself short. So I've created a group of companies from a level of $100 a month to, a little bit more, whatever it is, to where there's no excuse to not have a financial plan, not be educated, not build a business to scale, even if you don't have an MBA. We're trying to really provide solutions. So I don't know if there's one thing I could do other than to say I want people to be financially literate, and I want them to be able to build a business, because a lot of people want to know how to get wealthy, Coach, and you can't invest your way to wealth. The only way I know how to do it, if you don't start rich, is you've got to build a business. And that starts by building excess cash flow that you first invest. And then secondarily, that business itself becomes a big asset that you could at some point in time sell.
That's good. Because when I think about you, I think strategist.
Yep.
I think coach, right? I mean, I think you're a combo of these practitioner, and so I think that's what kind of separates you from a lot of people, is you kind of understand the whole board, I would say, and I think that's really unique in today's world. And somebody said something to me once. I called the guy who sold his company for 66 million as was a pharmacist that I coached, and he sold it to, one of the big pharmacy companies. And I said, man, as I begin to generate some money, excess cash, now I feel like, this, what do I do with it? And he said to me, you need someone who can quarterback that for you, that's not trying to sell you anything.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I was like, the word quarterback caught my attention, because the quarterback's seeing the whole board there, right? There's interconnectedness. They're not just trying to sell you this product that causes a problem over here, that causes a problem over here, which I found much of this to be very disjointed. And I'm sure that a lot of people who are going to be at this conference say the same thing. I'm a high income earner, but under invested. I'm undercapitalized. I don't really know. Now, let me ask you this question about businesses, because you've probably looked at a lot of businesses. Mm-hmm. Would you say that most businesses are poorly designed and they have to be redesigned at some point in the future for this scale that you're talking about? I mean, very few people that I coach, even myself, didn't go into it thinking, okay, I'm gonna build this business and I'm gonna sell it what they typically do is build the business and wake up one day and go, I hate this business. and how do I get out of this business? And I was one of those people, by the way, built a coaching business, speaking and coaching. And then of course, everybody wants Coach Burt to coach them. And there's only one Coach Burt.
Right.
And so what do you see that you would give advice to the small business owner from a design perspective to ultimately be able to, whether it be merge with someone who's bigger than you or liquidate or whatever the case would be? What kind of coaching would you give them?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and probably one of the most important ones you could ask me, because I think it really talks about the core value that I'm able to offer. I can't do everything, but there's one thing I think I do well. And it kind of like you, I built my own business at 27. I didn't exactly have the same level of expertise and experience that I have today. And so what I built wasn't necessarily 10 years into it what I really would have wanted it to be. And what happened was, by the time I was in my early 30s, was making $1 million a year. But by the time I got close to 40, I was still making 1, 2, 1, 3. So I had this exponential growth, but then I got capped out, and I realized I did not, like you, build a business for scale. I bought myself a high-paying job, and that's great as long as I'm willing to work 70, 80 hours a week, be available for everyone 7 days a week, and all of that. But then, like you said, you ultimately, everybody, I don't care how much you love what you're doing, you're going to burn out when that takes time away from your family, you're missing your kids' sporting events or whatever that may be. And I realized I needed to change things. So I actually, in my late 30s, 38, went back and did my MBA. But now having experience to where when I went into the classroom, I went there with a very specific purpose and intention of how do I scale this business of mine? When I came out after a couple of years, I had a very clear roadmap that I've created between Ward and Anderson, a lot of smart people, not just myself and other entrepreneurs that I worked with. So it was a very, I thought, very simple, easy to implement system. I was growing the business 10 to 20% up until this point for the previous 10 years. The next 3 years before I was bought out, we grew at 88%, 120%, 150% assets under management year over year over year, after being stuck at 10% growth for a decade. And so to me, again, I don't do anything or talk about anything unless I've executed on it. So when I did that, I realized, okay, I have something, a publicly traded company that now manages almost 400 billion, that was in Canada, moved to the US. They acquired us first before all the other assets to use our model. And so again, it's like you get a bit of confidence when that happens. And I realized, okay, it worked for me. They're seeing value in it. And that model in terms of strategy is exactly what I teach people today, is what does that look like? What is that roadmap? And really, it's most important that I get to these people early on, right? Because you wind up creating legacy problems and issues. If you come to me too late, you can't change, right? So let me give you just one example, and I think everyone can understand. In private wealth management, the typical structure is this. Usually everyone wants $1 million client, they charge them 1%. Okay, so that's easy. It's $1 million, 1%, 10 grand a year. That's your top line revenue. Okay, most financial advisors, they're kind of salespeople also. They get about 50% of that. So that first 50%, 5 grand comes off the table, then the business has 5,000 to disseminate down. Okay. Now, let me tell you what we're bringing to the table. That same client that pays 10,000 now, we're building a new business. We're going to be able to deliver the same solution, we believe better, for 3,000 a year. Okay. That's very disruptive, because if you go back to the legacy business where they built the whole thing on the advisor getting 5,000, well, how on earth, if your advisor gets, forget about paying rent, forget about software, forget about compliance, they cannot disrupt themselves. That's what Netflix did to Blockbuster, where they had all these leases and all these things to where Netflix came in asset light, hit them right where they hurt, put them out of business. And so you need today to be thinking about, how can you be disruptive? What can I do to make sure I don't build a business where I have legacy issues that put a weight around my neck when I'm trying to swim? So what I do with businesses today is, a lot of times if you say, hey, Rob, I'm starting a trucking business, I say, okay, great. What I do is I go to the private equity companies who are doing deals for trucking businesses right now. I find out, what does the optimal business look like for you guys? And then we reverse engineer that to build that business from day one on scale to look that way. Now, if you're starting it out yourself, you don't necessarily have the capital from day one, but we have the roadmap and plan. And I started 2 businesses this year, Coach, one real talk, we've got a multi-million-dollar valuation on that business already, an investment. We haven't even done anything yet. But we had two things. We have strategy, we have plans, and we have experienced people going in there to run it. There is so much capital out there today. If you are a proven executor, operator with strategy, that you will be super successful. And so that's what it comes down to, is from day one, understanding that. But if you let it go too long, it's almost impossible to do.
Wow. Man, this is good. I feel like I could just sit around and talk. There's not many people I could talk to for a long time, but you're that I like enough to talk to for a long time. But I think I could just sit there and just ask you questions and just listen, because I've already written down 7, 8, 10 ideas just by you talking about it. So many people that are, I wrote down capped but ready to explode. There's so many, like you were, that point. I've certainly felt that way in my life many times. Capped by the vehicle, right? The vehicle can't get me to where I'm trying to go.
Right.
And I think so many people need this kind of literacy, because we coach thousands of small business owners, and I see the same problems over and over and over. And like you said, you get down the road too far, and this is a problem that's going to be hard to work your way out of.
Well, it is. And there's some things that you can do to identify, recognize that. That's why we have a lot of times we have people selling businesses and starting a new one the next day, right? And that's kind of what I'm doing, is I've sold off a business that I couldn't have. I had that legacy structure. I wanted to disrupt, but I couldn't take an 80% haircut to earnings, right? So I had to sell that. But as soon as I did, I was ready to move on to the next thing. And so those are some of the things, but also that we'll talk about at the event, but we'll also talk about for people who are a little bit newer, what are the things you can put in place from day one to make sure you don't find yourself in that position. And the worst thing people could do is buy themselves a job, because building a business the right way, I promise you, is not only not harder, it's easier when you have systems and processes in place. It's easier to bring people in to run that business. And you're missing out if you're not building enterprise value in that business, because that, for most people done right, is by far going to be their best. I made some great stock private equity investments, nothing near the return I got on selling that business. And I know I could have gotten $100 million more if I just did some things different earlier on.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, this is going to be fun, man. You come into Nashville, you started building affinity for Nashville. Yes?
Yeah. My first time was there for the Trumans a couple months ago, where we met up, and I love it there now. And I don't love California state taxes, so we might be thinking something soon to do out there. I got to balance that weather though in the summer. I'm in 78 degrees right now.
Yeah, when I go to California, because I'll be in San Diego speaking next week, I always call my wife and I go, gosh, love this weather, and it's like, okay, I get it. Okay. When I come to California, I get why people live there. And I know it gets a lot of bad press. And so a lot of people like us in Tennessee only see a lot of the bad press. We don't see, but when you're there, it's like, this is why you live here, man. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's not. And I'm looking at boats pass by right now as we're talking over through the windows. It's pretty good quality of life, but taxes suck. And hey, you don't have to live here every month of the year. So
now let me ask you one more question, then we're going to get in, because we're actually going to do, and I think this is going to be just as cool as the conference, is we're working on a private luncheon with you and Brad Lee.
Yeah. So.
And I think, Brad is probably as hot as anybody on building a personal brand in the world. Yeah, it's interesting. Everywhere I go, people used to ask me about certain people, and now they ask me about Brad Lee. Yeah. It's like, now tell me about this Brad Lee guy, And so it's like everywhere I speak at, that's the one person people are asking me about. And so we're going to actually do a private event the day after the conference that's totally separate from the conference. So you don't have to come to the conference to purchase a ticket, but we're going to take 20 people, 20 people at a $5,000 investment to come and have lunch with me and Rob Luna and Brad Lee. And I think that just sitting in a room and being able to ask you questions, and business owners that are looking to scale, would be incredibly valuable for a lot of people who are out there and watching this. And so you'll be at the conference. If you get a chance, we're going to have you here at the lodge on Thursday, because I'm sure there'll be people who want to meet you and greet you and take some Q&A. I think that'd be a nice, intimate setting. And then Friday, be on the main stage. Got a beautiful venue at the Bell Tower, which is one of the top places downtown Nashville. We got a private concert both nights. And then we can go out in Nashville and do your thing. And then on Saturday, we got this private luncheon. So if you're interested, if you're out there and you're watching, you're interested in that, just email info@coachburt.com. We'll post the links for you to click and purchase a ticket. But this is a conference that I would want to go to if I wasn't hosting it. And it's just people in the room. We got a guy who built $100 million timeshare business. We've got Brad Lee. We've got Rob Luna. We've got Cody Askins that built 8% Nation Conference up to a couple thousand people. So that's some really talented people who are speaking. I just brought on Gogo Bethke, who is one of the fastest growing female real estate pros in the world, came from Romania with $200 and went on to build, 8 or 9 businesses. And so it's just really impressive people and I don't put bozos on the stage. It's my conference. So I get to pick who's getting on stage. So I pick people I want to learn from.
Yeah.
Now you're really building a personal brand now. Is that intentional? I mean, I know you're on television, which is very coveted for a lot of people on just being on such a major network, but is that part of your next play of kind of going out to the world and being an influencer in the world like you are?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, like, the great thing about that for everyone who might not be on national television right now is you don't really necessarily have to be. So one thing, as I mentioned, being a private wealth, ultra high net worth families, family offices, celebrities, athletes. There's a lot of NDAs involved, and most of my clients were not coming from Instagram. They're coming from estate planning attorneys, referrals. And so I wasn't even on Instagram until after I sold my business, right? I didn't have time for it. I wasn't on it. I didn't see the value in it because, as we know, as entrepreneurs, our greatest thing to offer is our own personal time. And that's why, we have to be very coveted about that. So I didn't spend time on it, so I couldn't make money from it. And then, when I wanted to launch the academy, and I talked to, Brad about this, and I run it through Brad's platform. He's the one who kind of talked to me, to your point about personal brand and getting out there. And I was very skeptical. But it's funny, like I came back from the gym today. I get more people that recognize me now from Instagram than they do from Fox or Fox Business or CNBC, because that's where people are. And that's why you see Fortune 500 companies shifting so much advertising dollar over there. So I'm not doing it to make new friends. At 47 years old, I don't need a lot more friends in my life. I'm doing it because it works. You're able to build a personal brand. And more than anything I've ever done, the ability to monetize through social media is tremendous. And so, I've been on 24 months on Instagram. I got verified and all those things. I don't want to make it sound easy. Television did help because I had that experience and I had somewhat of an audience, but I do believe it's something everyone can do. And to the point of, I'm only going to talk about things I know. That's not my area of expertise. I think I've done a good job of building a brand, but Brad, I learned a lot personally from Brad. So I'm excited to be in there, especially at the lunch where we're going to have a small, intimate group and we can really get into some personal questions, because I think the two of us together are going to be able to, and the three of us especially, are going to be able to give you a really comprehensive situation in a small group to where I charge $5,000 an hour myself just to consult. So to have all of us in there for an hour and a half, 2-hour lunch, I think is a tremendous deal. I mean, don't be short-sighted, and having proximity to people who can definitely help you. It could be $25,000, I would say.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a big believer in who, not how. I think that's a great concept. And so, I know I was thinking about this greatness factor, which is a whole new endeavor for me, by the way.
Yeah.
Building physical spaces. I've done a heavy market research for 3 or 4 years, just trying to figure out what the openings are or what they need. But building this first project in Nashville turned out to be probably a $6 or $7 million project. I kept going, who can give me some counsel? Who, right? It's like I was writing down on my board every day, who can help me figure this out to design it properly? Because I literally don't see one, I see 50.
Yeah.
And I have so much interest when I talk about these that I know there's a scalable play here. I just got to figure it out. And it's like, boom, I kept writing it down. And then Rob Luna showed up in my life and I went, there's my who. So Rob's given me some counsel on just how to get this thing up and started appropriately, how to think about scale of it, how to, there's things that when you're doing something new, you need guidance. So, man, I'm excited about having you. I appreciate you as a person, but I also really appreciate you're incredibly skilled. And I think that's what the world needs, is more skilled people.
But yeah, I agree. And that's why I appreciate what you do and a lot of people do out there, because, information, the great thing about it today, it is so easily accessible. That doesn't mean it all should be, right? And so there's so much bad information out there that I see people paying for. And there's a lot of people like myself, like you, like Brad, that are trying to give good, actionable information. that don't have, unfortunately, 2 million followers or whatever it is. But I think, again, I've done it all my career, doing the right thing, being consistent, giving good quality information to people. Eventually that's gonna take over. And so, look, social media is new, everything's new. The great thing is today, you don't have to go the path that I did. There's conferences like what you're putting out there. But look, sometimes I see some of these conferences where they got basketball players and singers talking, and it's like, what is the experience of them helping entrepreneurs build their own personal wealth, exit, build a personal brand, the things that they really need to be learning? That's cool, but I would submit, just go to the concert if that's really what you're looking for. But if you really want to learn something, look for proven executors at a conference that can really help you do what you're trying to do.
Yeah, man, that's perfect. Couldn't have been said any better, because that's what I believe, the same thing. All right, if you're out there watching this, Rob Luna is going to be there. You need to be at the Monster Nation Conference, folks. September 8th and 9th, special event on the 10th, Nashville, Tennessee, one of the best cities in the world to come to. September, the weather will be beautiful in Nashville, great downtown area. We got a lot of things that are going to be happening, private parties, meet and greet people. There's no reason you should come to this conference and just pick up names, energy, money, business, and a lot of information. So Rob, thank you, sir, for helping us promote this. And we look forward to seeing you in September.
Thanks, Coach. See you there.
All right, big guy. Thank you.
Before I get started, there is one very important question I have to ask you.
Coach Micheal Burt, Monster Producer Academy CEO. He's a personal friend of mine.
What good is it to have knowledge with no desire? What good is it to have desire with no skill? What good is it to have knowledge and skill with no confidence?
A big part of activating your prey drive is finding and refining your talent. This is something that helps you get to the next place.
People are made up of 4 parts: a body, a mind, a heart, and a spirit.
You need to know you, and then you need to have an awareness, and sometimes you don't even know what you need.
So all 4 parts of our nature have to be clicking. Your hard skill solves my problem. The bigger the problem, the more money people will pay to solve it.
Everything is valuable to your future. What I'm really paying you for is your past.
A monster producer combines multiple skills to dominate a market.
When you get to wake up every day and do what you love doing, man, it is hard not to be motivated.
They think at a higher ordinance than everybody else. They want to create new things.
I have a conviction about me, and that's the conviction that you feel when I talk, when I speak. It comes across as passion.
You got to learn how to connect to another person at such a deep level that it moves them. You have goals, you have targets, but you don't have a sense of urgency.
They're going to exchange money, energy. They're going to raise capital. They're going to start new businesses. There's going to be joint ventures.
I think your purpose finds you. It is activated. The word activate means to initiate.
Discipline, which is a derivative of the word disciple, which means to give yourself to a person or cause you believe in. Do you believe in your future, yes or no?
When we know better, we do better. Finding the problem that you are uniquely qualified to solve, and you don't know what problem you really solve for whom, then there is no big financial exchange right there. You should leave here thinking bigger today than when you came.
And I want to shake your hand and look you in the eyeball when you make this decision. Thank you. We'll see you in the back. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.